Hey, Stone here. Okay, I'm gonna try to kill two birds with one stone here. I don't like fake arguments, distractions, vague words, and straw man arguments. Those are my pet peeves. And because I don't live under a rock, I have noticed the sudden emergence of this brand new buzzword, traditionalism, or traditionalist, which has been used to describe some vague ideology or group or attitude that opposes the men's human rights movement. I myself have used this word in the past, and Cootie has also used the word traditionalism, and said, quote, "Traditionalism is obsolete. Ignore your role." What I had in mind by traditionalism was just the idea that men should be a certain way and that women should be a certain way. Sexist double standards, in other words. I didn't just mean any sexism and double standards, but those particular sexist double standards that you could not ascribe to feminism and feminist ideology. Traditional sexism is all I meant by it. But I see that a few people actually think that advocating for strengthening male-female relationships or for the restoration of fatherhood and of the nuclear family is traditionalism. Since, well, these are traditional after all. Let it be known that I do not view fatherhood or the nuclear family as oppression or as inherently sexist. And I would bet that most of my subscribers don't either. The problem with this concept of traditionalism is that the word can be a vague reference to anything that could be said to be traditional, so I really don't like this word. How about we stop using the word traditionalism and just say traditional sexism or chivalry instead? Because it is relatively clear what chivalry is and what traditional sexism is. Traditionalism in general, though, is not clear at all. It pretty much means everything and nothing. If your goal is to abolish the nuclear family or to separate biological fathers from their own offspring, then please don't call your goal in opposition to traditionalism. That's a totalitarian goal, not a progressive goal. And I generally don't like to use the word progressive either, for the same reason that it can easily be abused. Oh, and abused is another word that I try to use sparingly, for the same reason. I really don't like these vague words. A few MRAs, notably Rocking Mystery and Bernard Chapin, and other like-minded MRAs, have picked up on the ambiguity and mobility of this new buzzword, traditionalism, and correctly noted that some people use this word to refer to people on the right who oppose feminism. There are forces on the right who act against our interests, and there are people on the left who support us, no doubt. But if we had to choose between right and left, the right seems like an obvious choice. But fortunately, we don't have to choose. So here's my 2 cents. I think that it makes perfect sense to distance the MRM, or the MHRM, from a desire to differentiate the sexes. Feminists love to portray the MRM as an attempt to treat women as children, or as the property and the responsibility of their husbands and the men in their lives. That's a misrepresentation of what we are about. There is a consensus around this point within the MRM. We generally do not want a return to that particular state of affairs. We want equality. Oh, equality. That's another one of those words. Anyway, we can agree to disagree on whether to vote for Obama and Biden, or Romney and Ryan, or whether to drink Pepsi or Coke. Can we also agree that we are for equality and against sexism and misandry? And can we all agree that not all sexism and misandry is feminist sexism and misandry? That brings me to the second bird that I want to kill. That being the "don't blame feminist ideology" meme. I've noticed that both Barbarossa and That Cynical Cynicism have advanced a very similar claim. That claim goes something like this. Some potent combination of technology and biology is the driving force behind the problems that the MRM is trying to deal with. Feminism is then to be understood as an epiphenomenal manifestation of this inevitable interaction between our static biology and the rapidly evolving cultural technology. Feminism, Marxism, and the ideology and propaganda that we've witnessed should then be viewed more as a symptom than as the underlying disease. That analysis looks fallacious to me. Just because technology and biology are necessary causal factors does not mean that we should let feminism off the hook. Feminism is the disease, and I think that this disease analogy is very apt, since I view religions and ideologies as mimetically driven. We can attack these memes both by building up the immunity of its human hosts and with a healthy dose of truth. Sure, dishonesty and propaganda in religions and ideologies will always be around in one form or another, just as diseases will. But let's not give up and say that it was inevitable, because we still have a lot of work to do. We need to counteract this socially engineered virus that has infected and corrupted the institutions that the public is supposed to be able to trust and rely on. So let's focus on the problems that we can solve and ignore the problems that we can't solve, those being, biology and technology. We're not going to be able to stop either of those, right? Let's try and stay positive and focus on what we can do. And let's always keep in mind, really, seriously, the truth is on our side. So let's use it. Another point that Barbarossa raised was about hatred. Personally, I don't blame men for hating women or women for hating men. And I'm not trying to be condescending to people who do hate the opposite sex, because it is understandable, even if it's, misguided or unhealthy. And I agree that we need to take that anger and channel it in the right direction, so that rather than being opposed to half of the human population, it's targeted at the real problems, right? Take the frustration and channel it into problem solving. That should be our goal. No question about it. So I totally understand that we shouldn't shame men for experiencing hatred, for feeling hatred, or I guess actually anger would be the right word. You can't feel hatred, you can only feel anger. But still, hatred is just a preference. You love and you hate, that's just a preference. That's not an emotion. Anger, that's an emotion. You can experience hate and love as emotions, but they aren't emotions. If there are emotions such as anger in our movement, which there are, of course we want to use those constructively to channel it in the right direction. Who could disagree with that? We can't just be about, pure logical analysis without feeling. If we were just about rationality, we wouldn't survive as a movement. You can't really have a purely rational movement. You need to have motivation. So that's just my 2 cents. It's not too controversial. I'm not pretending that anyone disagrees with me. At the same time, I'm not claiming to speak for everyone. Anyhow, please let me know what you think in the comments. Till next time. See you later.